Viewer discretion advised.
Night falls, and I cannot remember the last time I had a full night's sleep. Hello, freaks and freethinkers. This is Radio Ghost Town, and I'm your host, Deep Amber, coming to you from the relative safety of an undisclosed location. Tonight, we continue our ongoing series, The Serpent Whispers, investigating and exposing the greatest conspiracy in the history of the world. Last episode, we took a call from a trusted ally of the show. The breadcrumbs he dropped during our brief conversation, along with information included in the email I received, point toward a massive conspiracy that is both criminal and spiritual. Together, we will uncover the predator at the very center of the spider's web. Not a man, not a secret society, though they play their parts and dip their hands in innocent blood, but the serpent himself. First, we identify the serpent's target, which is, of course, our children. Aleister Crowley, 20th century occultist, Luciferian, all-around pervert and walking, talking cow patty, heralded the dawning of a new age. He called it the Age of Horus, the crowned and conquering child, or, alternately put, the fascinating child. Fascinating indeed. Travis warned me that using the proper term here could get us shadow banned or worse, but I don't have the time or the energy to manufacture creative euphemisms. Crowley practiced and taught pedophilia. He abused children in the most vile ways possible, and he taught his followers to do the same. His religion, the Lima, and its corresponding secret society, the OTO, is based on varying degrees of sex magic. In truth, all versions of the occult have that demonic principle at their core. Illicit intercourse, you see, is a corrupting act. It abuses the human body, it blasphemes the image of God, and it grants fallen angels entrance into the participants' bodies and souls. Demons are, if you'll pardon the indelicacy, the STDs of the spirit realm. Hookup culture and free love serve a purpose, pumping energy into the kingdom of darkness. The sexual revolution of the 60s was orchestrated on the simplest levels by factions of our government, but on the ultimate level by the master conspirator, Satan himself. And the LGBTQXYZ movement is simply the next phase of his plan. The kingdom of darkness has no life in itself. It must draw life from its victims. It must enter into doorways opened by sin through portals created by grotesque perversions. How much more delicious for the serpent when he is able to abuse, corrupt, and profane the innocence of a child. Children are especially loved by God, and they are full of life and energy and unspent years that the dark forces need to give them power. And while all strongly held negative emotions do serve to charge evil spirits' batteries, fear seems to be widely preferred, particularly the fear of a child. Retired CIA operative Robert David Steele wrote the foreword for a book called Pedophilia and Empire. The book states, and I quote, "This world is run by planetary controllers who are blood-feasting pedophiles." The man has guts. I like that. Mr. Steele also gave testimony as chief counsel before the ITNJ's Judicial Commission of Inquiry into Human Trafficking and Child Sex Abuse. He said in front of cameras, "We have people in the United States of America that breed children in order to sell them. And when they're sold, they come without birth certificates, which means it's easier to kill them and have no one ask where they are. We're also importing children by the plane load. Again, children who have no documentation. It's not just child slavery or child sex abuse, it's also child torture. You have the whole blood-drinking ceremony of the satanic world. And later, all of the child service agencies across the United States of America, they did not start out as organizations to prey on children, but they attract pedophiles. So that an organization that originally started out in the service of children becomes an organization that is, in fact, hunting children. We don't have time for pearl-clutching naivete. Yes, the world is that dark. Yes, humans in the service of the serpent are indeed that evil. Keep up. The above statements were recorded 4 years ago. Interesting timing. Under the auspices of the 45th President of the United States, we made great progress against the second greatest humanitarian crisis of our time, human trafficking. Now, halfway through the Brandon administration's grotesquely criminal tenure in the White House, we have millions of undocumented illegal aliens pouring over the border. An endless supply of children for the global death cult. The Bible says, out of the mouths of 2 or more witnesses, let a thing be established. And I have heard these facts from far too many trustworthy sources to pretend they aren't true. Private charities who rescue victims of human trafficking and help them in their recovery receive little to no help from the government. That would be counterproductive for the pedo elite. As for Hollywood, the pile of filth that has appointed itself dictator of the new morality, it not only refuses to raise a finger for the children, but actively silences voices that speak out. One of the finest charities in existence, whose operatives risk their lives to rescue women and children from slavery to predators and perverts, made a full-length feature film documentary starring an actor whose name you would know. The film, which told the story of why they do what they do, was never allowed to see the light of day. It was denied official release. It was buried. It was banned. It was all but destroyed because it exposed the very same crimes against children that Mr. Steele spoke of. Hollywood chose sides long ago, and they chose the serpent. The charity, by the way, is called Operation Underground Railroad. They are not affiliated with Radio Ghost Town. As far as I know, they aren't even aware I exist. The movie starred Jim Caviezel and is called The Sound of Freedom. Don't you dare avoid this because it makes you uncomfortable. Don't you dare. We resume. There is a network of pedophiles and child traffickers operating on the internet. They use the same exact social media sites as you. They tag their posts with hashtag boy lover, hashtag pedo, hashtag gay pedo, etc. But they don't violate the community guidelines. No. You do, though, when you voice concerns that maybe adult men should not be permitted to shower and change with underage girls. Who runs the world? Pedos. They run Hollywood, too. Roman Polanski was convicted of raping a 13-year-old girl. Hollywood adores him. Director Victor Salvo, a convicted sexual predator who filmed himself committing his crimes, was welcomed back into Hollywood's inner circle with open arms. Meanwhile, his 12-year-old victim was told that he'd never work in that town again. Brian Peck worked for Nickelodeon, where he was arrested and convicted for raping a child on set. 2 years later, he was working on a major Disney Channel original show. After that, his good friend Charlie Sheen hired him as the dialogue coach for anger management. And let's not forget former Disney Vice President Michael Laney, sentenced in 2019 for the sexual abuse of a 7-year-old girl. He was, I believe, 73 years old at the time. When he was escorted in handcuffs from a seat of power after decades in Tinseltown, aka the armpit of civilization, how many more victims do you suppose he left behind? We'll never know. In California, thanks to the statute of limitations, if a victim tries to bring charges or tell their story, once they're finally old enough to process the trauma and stand up for themselves, they are the ones who risk being sued. They are the ones who risk losing everything. Convenient, isn't it? I hate to break it to you, freaks and freethinkers, but we'll never know half the perverts out there who have preyed on children in the service of their master Lucifer. Worse still, we'll never know the names of the children who suffered and died while we sat quietly in front of our televisions, in the movie theaters, in front of our computers, drinking the Kool-Aid that Hollywood pours out, paying them to brainwash us and corrupt our children one sip at a time. Hollywood is in the process of normalizing pedophilia. They've been doing it for years, slowly by degrees. Big. 1988. One of the most revolting movies I have ever seen. Blatantly pedo. Watch it again. Open your eyes. And they have made startling progress since then. A recent movie about talking rabbits, so cute, so funny, so innocent, featured an exchange where one little boy rabbit is presumed to be dating an old friend of his father's. Let that sink in for a moment. And it was okay that the young boy would be dating a man, an old man at that, but he's being a thief. That's where they drew the line. It's played off for a joke. It went by like that, and I bet 90% of adults didn't even notice it. But the children did. Their bright young minds absorbed the input and filed it away for future reference. All according to plan. Of course, we talked about Hocus Pocus last time. I mention it again because it makes the tie between sexual deviancy and the occult so very plain. Speaking of which, Teen Vogue publishes articles on sex magic now. Yes, they do. Look it up. And we just sit here, giving perverts and predators unfettered access to our homes and our psyche. We watch their movies, fall asleep in front of their shows, we sing their songs, we read their articles, and we feed the serpent while he gobbles up the children whole. God forgive us. We haven't even scratched the surface, but I need a break and time to do more research. When next we meet, there will be lighter subjects to discuss, but this conversation is far from over. But now, for the record. Satan is alive and active in the world today. He is your mortal enemy with just one goal: to destroy you, body and soul. But the good news is, we have a champion. His name is Jesus. Jesus is the only way to God, and the Bible is our only source for absolute truth. Together, they're our only hope for salvation. I'm Deep Amber, and this is Radio Ghost.
Thanks for watching. At Fly By Light Media, we choose freedom over comfort and truth over popularity. We hope you will too.
And you can buy cool FBLM tees and hoodies through the link in the description. And be sure to watch more videos.
Together,
We are Fly By Light Media, and we rise to shine.